especially in this country, is so often obviously presented in English, and it's got one avenue essentially for people to be able to participate in that. But we know in this country, I mean, for those who remember, it's a melting pot, and it still is. And there are a lot of people who are represented here, even in Sarasota. So what do we do going forward, and what more, especially, can theater do? Because where music may be more abstract, visual art, can be inclusive. What can theater do moving forward that really can help to be part of this healing process, especially with so much vitriol that's out there?
Well, I mean, just you should stop me talking, but Callie, this is something I'm going to be talking to you about, because it's obviously everybody's asking this question: what are you doing next?
Yeah.
We're about to launch a big 5-year project examining the American character. Who are we? Where have we come from? What is it that defines us as a nation, as individuals? The American character, of which the Spanish-speaking populations are a fundamental part. What you've just seen in our Hamlet, led by a delicate and tender prince who is born in Miami to Cuban parents, went to FSU, is totally bilingual, and graduated from Juilliard 2 years ago. If you've seen him do Hamlet in Spanish, flawless. And in English, flawless. This can only be done. He is an American. He is a young American. This is a young American. And we have a Mexican king. We have an Ophelia.
Who's right there?
From Ecuador, mother from Kentucky. We have a Laertes, who's Cuban. We have a Polonius, who's Cuban. We have a player king, who's Cuban. We have, much of South America is on the stage. It's directed by an Australian. This one's Spanish, but we're all Americans. We're actually Americans, and so we are in the process of shaping the American project and the American character. We're just going to be looking at it. The launch project next fall is 1776, the musical about the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the most wonderful, uniquely inspiring event in the music theater. So turns out there were no Latinos there when that declaration got signed.
Really?
No, it turns out, unless, it's
Lots of
there were some German types, and I've yet to figure out if there could possibly have been an Australian there, although we have not, the country wasn't even beginning to be settled. But what we think we're going to have to do is that we're going to have to do at least one performance of 1776 with Spanish supertitles.
Oh.
We're going to have this audience that has been coming to our theatre for these performances come and see this and recognize an aspect of their own personal history and character in the signing of that declaration. That is actually, I'm very moved by it. I feel like it's to do with my history and identity now. So that is, I already know. I was going to save this and talk to you about this privately, Kelly. But I feel like that's an immediate thing of identifying where we can actually do this, because it turns out the technology of super titling is actually remarkably sophisticated compared to what it was 10 years ago. Those of you who saw the English up there, but beautifully put together and operated by Jesse Ontiveros. This is a way to actually say, actually everything we are doing here can be made accessible and give people a way to take ownership. And 1776 seems to be an ideal one to do that. Now, I've done no work.
I know, we
we haven't had a chance to talk about it. Kelly, we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but I think we're going to have to go down this road, because now that these people have come here, we want them to come back.
Time for a couple more. Giselle, you had something, then we'll come right here.
I just wanted to make a comment about healing and how I shared this with Michael. Just my experience of rehearsing this play in Spanish. I was incredibly moved in rehearsals, not only because of the beautiful language, but I just found myself kind of touched for some reason, hearing Spanish around me, and it occurred to me that when I moved here from Brazil, actually, I grew up speaking mostly Portuguese. And so there was a part of my character, my being, that was defined by that language. And when I was 8, my parents said, we want you to learn English, we want you to be immersed and do that. So we rarely spoke Portuguese, so there was a part of me that really didn't get to be developed after that point. And I found that even speaking in Spanish, as close as that is to Portuguese, it was like I was saying hello to my young self. And so, in a way, it was healing for me to be able to be an American, embrace that, but also embrace the side of me that was defined by a completely different language that I find I can express in Spanish. And so, I think there's incredible potential for healing.
Well, and I have in apropos of that, I remember that conversation vividly. And I also remember, and Andy and Ms. Merce can speak to this as well, the first rehearsal in Spanish. The first rehearsal where all the gringos in the cast, and there were quite a number of them, had to speak Spanish for the first time. And they were incredibly nervous and done a lot of preparation. And we were doing the first put-in rehearsal with the company where everybody gets to say Spanish for the first time. And we're all in the room, we're sitting around scene by scene. And as each of the gringos got to say their lines, everyone was on the edge of the seat, leaning in for support. And I have to say, you know, the Spanish speakers just were beaming with pride that they were attempting this and pulling it off. And as each actor got through their lines, they got a round of applause. And it was a very emotional time, and there was a lot of generosity about having bad accents, you know, because you went through that as a Spanish kid speaking English badly, and you know, and all of that. So it was very charged, you know, because.
Well, what's wonderful is, for me, what this all makes me think about is doing Shakespeare in Spanish is such a treat. And how glorious would it be to have the Spanish Shakespeares, the Calderón, the Lope de Vega. There's so many brilliant plays. As a Spanish literature major, and my father teaching a lot of this, I grew up reading La Dama Boba, Don Gil de las Calzas Verdes, which are the comedies, you know. In La Dama Boba, we have a woman that is so Marilyn Monroe. She's so stupid. She's got a brilliant sister that's like Katharine Hepburn. Then you've got the dumb woman who, she's so dumb that they show her a picture of the man she has to marry, and it's from the waist up, and she goes, why doesn't he have any legs? You know, and there are these wonderful images that I think Americans have never experienced this. And then you've got the tragedies of Calderón, El Pintor de su Deshonra. The British do Spanish classical theater. But you don't, and I've been working on a La Dama Boba translation for like 15 years. There are no good translations. There are no actable translations. They're all done by academics. And I think how wonderful would it be?
Well, Lope de Vega wrote 10,000 plays.
He was what is the word when you can't stop working? I mean, he was
Workaholic.
Yeah, but it's almost pathological.
And it was at the same time as Shakespeare, and everywhere the Spanish went all over the world, they took the theater with them.
Yeah, yeah. And we had women on the stage before men, so the female parts are actually incredibly good. Not that Shakespeare's aren't, but you know, it's different when you have women on the stage. So for me to be able, if somehow I could find a way to bring the Spanish Shakespeare into the American way, that would be fantastic.
I think that's another next step for us to be looking at as well. How do we actually take something from, you know, and the Spanish Golden Age is also charged as well, because many of the South American countries are really just integrating their native populations. And they look at the Spanish Golden Age in the same way many of us in Australia looked at Shakespeare. That it's the theatre of the colonialists. It's not really expressing you know, the reality. Where are the native populations in that story?
I know.
So there's a charge around that. There's a charge
I know,
around
there really
that as well.
Did you have a question? It'll be our last.
I just had a comment. I moved here in 1770.
Wow.
You're exactly who we need right now. We've been looking for a consultant. And where do you get your work done?